This video is a critique of language learning advice offered by a YouTube channel called Days and Words. But I'm not gonna lie to you. This gets into the meaning of life quick. Questions about how to learn a language that might seem shallow and simple and pragmatic, but they connect to very important decisions about your lifestyle day by day, month by month, here and now. And then over the long term, what you realize is we really are dealing with tremendously profound questions that come close to the meaning of life soon enough. I once knew a guy who couldn't speak a word of German. He got married to a pretty German girl. She got pregnant and had his baby. And he was trying to learn Spanish. He was seriously talking about going on some adventure in South America. Machu Picchu, I don't know. I don't even remember what his interest was in South America. He wanted to travel around South America, backpacking, the way he did when he was a teenager before he met his wife. And he was studying Spanish in order to go on this adventure alone without her, while she stays alone in their apartment with the baby. Now, even before he leaves to go on vacation, even before he goes on this adventure, we got a lot of problems. We got a lot of questions. So if we follow the advice of this guy, Days and Words, he recommends spending just 1 hour a day studying a foreign language. Where is that hour going to come from? So you got a wife, you got a newborn baby, you got a job. He was employed at the time, as I recall. Okay, so like you say to your wife, no, I'm not going to play with you and the baby. I'm not going to spend time raising my child. And I'm not going to study your language. I'm not going to put the time and effort into learning German so I can communicate with you and your parents. Forget if she had brothers and sisters or whatever, your friends, you went to school. No. Are you going to leave the apartment? Are you going to go to the library? Are you going to go to a different room? I'm going to close the door and I'm going to sit here and study Spanish so I can pursue my dream. Now, I think 9 people out of 10 who hear about this scenario absolutely assume this guy had like a Spanish-speaking girlfriend hidden away somewhere, or that his fantasy was he was going to get laid with, he was going to sleep around with a bunch of women in South America once he went on this world tour. Like, come on, what are you backpacking for? You know, what's in the backpack that's so great? Like, if this isn't about sex, what's it about, guys? Okay, money, fame, power, respect, sex. The big 5 motivations. I can't imagine. Most people looking at this scenario, they may think this guy is fantasizing about leaving his wife, or at least having a whole bunch of Spanish-speaking girlfriends on the side, having some other sexual experience. Because what else would motivate him this way? And here is what I said to that guy. I said, you need to commit to learning German 110%. You have to make the German language your top priority from when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep at night. And he's like, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. You know, she speaks English well enough. We can just speak English to each other. No. And this sort of thing, it's really hard to deal with. It's really humbling. Like, you know, it can be hard to accept that the kind of freedom you had when you were a college student and you could just go on a backpacking tour and you could study a new language and you could start all over again and feel like you have that's over. Either you love this woman or you don't. Either you want to raise children with her or you don't. Either you respect her and care about her enough to study her language or you don't. And like, he didn't see it that way at all. This is shocking news to him. And you know what? Even if this guy has a low sex drive, he's not trying to cheat on his wife. Studying Spanish and spending your time going on vacation alone in South America could lead unexpectedly to cheating on your wife, could lead unexpectedly to you leaving your wife because of a new romance with a new woman that you meet who speaks Spanish. And I just remember the simplicity of the guy's attitude. It's like, oh, well, German is not my interest. Like, oh, well, like I just don't have an academic interest in the German language, whereas he supposedly does have some kind of academic interest in Spanish. He never told me what it was. Like, I don't know if he was into the architecture or like the indigenous people's culture, but it was South America specifically. He wasn't interested in Spain. He wasn't interested in Madrid, you know. Okay, well, all right. I do actually know how that story ends, and I'm not going to tell you. But look, I have been in similar situations myself. I was married once. I was with my first wife, and she said to me at one point, she was well-intentioned when she said this. She said, look, you've always wanted to study Greek. You can study Greek. You can stop everything you're doing. You can start a new life. You know, in theory, any language you want to. If you want to start all over again with, you know, combination of modern Greek and ancient Greek, you can do it. If you don't do it, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Great thing for her to say. Wonderful thing for her to say. Right? But even if we are just talking about 1 hour a day, as is recommended by this YouTube channel, I still think of him by his old name. He used to be called Days of Learning French and Swedish. Maybe Swedish and French. I think he used to change the name of his YouTube channel from time to time, depending on which languages he was studying. Nothing wrong with that. Anyway, you're talking about 1 hour a day. You know, I've got a marriage and a newborn baby. No, I can't learn Greek. Thank you for the encouragement. It's a wonderful thing to say. I cannot take 1 hour away from this marriage and this child. I have to devote 110% of my time and energy to learning one of the two languages my wife of the time speaks, you know, now my ex-wife. Hashtag spoilers, that marriage ended in divorce. She was at a pretty advanced level in Chinese, and her first language was French. But it's like, no, either I'm going to work on Chinese with you, we're going to study Chinese together, or we're going to work on French together, or nothing at all, because you are the woman I love, you are the woman I married, you're the woman I'm living with in this apartment. Okay, so look, I have always received hate mail because of my get real, be honest with yourself message about physical fitness. So if you guys don't know, I have had a spinal injury repeatedly within the last 2 years, and that spinal injury was extreme in its symptoms. So like I had periods of time where I couldn't walk between two rooms in my own house. Like I'm totally disabled. I've had coronavirus repeatedly within the last 2 years, which was really disabling and debilitating. And then I had this surgery. I basically died and came back from the dead. It was a really extreme surgery. It was not just a regular everyday surgery. I really did almost die at several points. So at the moment, I'm not able to take off my t-shirt and flex for y'all. I'm not able to show off the results of going to the gym. But I am someone who has a lot of experience with being highly committed to working out at the gym. And something I've always warned my viewers, always warned my listeners about is, it's not 1 hour a day, right? Really measure the amount of time involved and really ask yourself, like, where is that hour coming from? What are you subtracting it from? And indeed, it impacts your marriage. It impacts your boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, whatever relationships you've got, right? So once in a while, I would get hate mail about this. People would say, no, I can get a great workout in 45 minutes. You're crazy. Like, nobody needs to spend 3 hours a day exercising. I'd say back, okay, do you drive a car to the gym? Do you park the car? Do you take a shower afterwards? Like, I understand maybe you're just measuring like the group class workout. Like you actually go for 45 minutes at the gym where you're all in a class together, you're exercising with a group of people, and that's 45 minutes with an instructor on a schedule. I get it. But that did not take only 45 minutes out of your day. Right? Like the total amount of time you're spending on exercise. I won't get into it because it's not the topic of this video, but even the exercise you do within your own home, really being honest about how much time you're committing to it and what that's going to cost you. Okay? And it could cost you your marriage. Like, guess what? The difference between studying Spanish and studying German can be divorce. Okay? Like, and by the way, that example, it's not on a short timeline. It's not like this guy has 6 months to learn German or get out, right? Probably he's got like 5 years. Probably like over 5 years, he could be gradually getting better and better at German until he's at the point where he can talk to his wife, he can talk to his wife's parents, he can communicate with the kid in German. Probably 5 years. You know, it depends on the woman to some extent. I don't think she's going to put her foot down after 6 months and say, pack up and get out, because, you know, you're not bilingual yet. Look, there are a lot of reasons for marriages to break down this way, right? But yeah, we're talking about a multicultural marriage, talking about a multilingual marriage. This is a major consideration. And it's been a major consideration in every single relationship I've had in my life, okay? Blonde, white women, brown-skinned, Asian women, everything in between. It really is. You know, am I learning your language? Are you learning mine? Are we doing this together or not? Now, again, point 2 or point 0, this is not a 1 hour a day commitment. This is a major life-altering commitment. Level, you should try to finish. The special K you have. And then afterwards, we can give you more special K if you want. But you know, right now, Level, we're going to go to sleep in less than an hour. We're going to have a shower and we got to go to sleep. So we just didn't think you could eat that much special K before you go to bed.
Right. No, I wanted to eat more special K than that.
I totally understand, Level. But it's your second bowl of special K tonight. We are going to sleep soon, remember? So I think you're a little bit tired and a little bit hungry.
I'm not tired.
Okay. But remember...
I'm not.
Okay. But remember, we're going to have a shower, right? So, Level, we'll see, but you can eat all the special K you want.
I'm hungrier than that.
Okay. We're not going to run out of special K, Level.
Yeah, we have a whole box.
You can eat all the special K you want. Days and Words recommends listening to the same audiobook over and over again 15 times. Now, I don't want to misrepresent him. He is not attributing any special magical significance to the number 15. He later says, well, it could be 12 times, it could be 16 times, it could be 18 times. But his point is, it's many, many times you are listening to and reading the same text again and again and again. So tell me, why don't you recommend the Quran? Because you would be brainwashing your viewers into a dangerous, anti-scientific, and immoral cult. If you memorize the Quran, it changes you, bro. You become a different person. You know, yeah, you will learn a language. You sure will. There's more than one language you can memorize the Quran in, by the way. You could memorize the Quran in Chinese. You could learn Chinese with the Quran. Yeah, I'd make a lot of money selling that program, okay? Like, he recommends these utterly meaningless, shallow storybooks, different novels, different enjoyable forms of entertainment. All these guys are into kind of mainstream Hollywood movies, all right? Okay, and there's no thought given to the fact that boredom arises from the content, right? And that damage is actually done to you. Your personality and perspective is changed by the text you internalize and memorize. Now, I've been talking to a couple different fans lately who studied ancient Latin. I have a post on my blog talking to one guy in particular who is looking at making the transition to studying Pali. Pali is a language from ancient India. It's really the language of Buddhist philosophy. A lot of people assume Buddhist philosophy is written in Sanskrit. Wrong answer. It's this other language, Pali. So he's asking me for advice, asking me for my perspective. He's someone who put in the work online. Okay, well, Buddhism, in some ways less terrifying in its implications than Islam as a religion. Am I going to recommend to him that he listen to and memorize any given chunk of Buddhist text? You could say the Dhammapada. It could be anything. That he listen to this 15 times, 18 times. He reads and memorizes the text. He repeats it again and again and again. Now, I've known personally a lot of people who memorize the Dhammapada, that particular text. I don't know if it's a good example or a bad example for that reason. I can start throwing out different Buddhist sutras here. Could talk about the narrative of the Buddha's parinibbana. Maybe a better example. It's a long prose work. Dhammapada is pretty quick to work your way through. But okay, dude, I'm not comfortable recommending to him that he memorize the Dhammapada. I'm not comfortable recommending to him that he memorize the narrative of the Buddha's parinibbana because it is going to change you. Like, this is a kind of brainwashing you are inflicting on yourself. Now, some small number of people may be at a level of maturity and detachment and philosophical acumen where they can make that choice. They can make that commitment without any great risk. They can say, okay, I've chosen this text and I'm going to listen to it 15 times, 18 times, again and again and again. I'm going to read and study the words and listen to it. And then ultimately you're practicing things like the pronunciation and so on too. I'm going to internalize this text. I'm going to have it memorized. I'm going to live with it for the rest of my life. It's a religious level of commitment. Would you recommend doing that with a dishonest self-help book like Rich Dad, Poor Dad? So this could be any language. We could talk about someone who is learning English as their second language, memorizing that book. But I assume that book has been translated into French, Spanish, German, Chinese. Yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad in Chinese. Okay? The book, How to Make Friends and Influence People. And again, who are we talking about? Are we talking about a kid? Are we talking about an impressionable 14-year-old kid? 16-year-old, 18-year-old? I've met some people who are still really impressionable at age 24. I've met people who would be really damaged and messed up by memorizing Rich Dad, Poor Dad. At age 24. We don't even have to talk about age 14, right? I've met people who were really impressionable and got brainwashed and cultified by getting involved in Buddhism at age 24. Different people are susceptible at different ages. I admit, I'm a mean old man. I mean, look, I'm not willing to do it. I am not willing to memorize the book, How to Make Friends and Influence People. This is this book by Carnegie. Terrible, terrible book. Terrible book. Good language practice. I mean, it'll teach. Really, it teaches you the vernacular of whatever language you want to study, and it's been translated into practically every language of the world, and you can probably get it as an audiobook in every language of the world. So, okay, so it's the ultimate example. But I'm not willing to endure the brain damage. I'm not willing to inflict that brainwashing on myself. And here's the thing. No matter what text you choose for this method, it's going to have this same defect. If it's something profoundly meaningful, like Buddhist philosophy, you get brainwashed one way. If it's some stupid action movie about police officers shooting people in the head, you get brainwashed another. Watching the same violent American movie again and again and again, it does brainwash you. For my generation, most of the kids I grew up with, they memorized the movie Wayne's World in English in their own first language. They watched this one stupid comedy movie more than 10 times, probably more than 15 times. And it changed their lives. And it changed their personality. And they picked up and carried with them values from that movie for the rest of their lives. And yes, turns of phrase, catchphrases, jokes, their sense of humor. People are impressionable at any age. And even when you're a mean old man, I think you're aware of it. Am I willing to learn Finnish, to learn a new language, by listening to Peppa Pig again and again and again in Finnish? Okay? Peppa Pig is also available in Chinese. There was a time when I briefly tried to practice Chinese with Peppa Pig. And with my girlfriend at the time, now my ex-girlfriend, because she was sitting there studying Chinese with me, she was at a lower level than I was. Well, you do actually memorize these meaningless dialogues about jumping in muddy puddles, these jokes again and again, even as an adult. It still is a consideration. So look, I understand this guy, Days and Words, has the best of intentions. But these are methods that will have terrible outcomes. I think the 1 hour a day paradigm gives you a sort of false reassurance, a false sense of safety. And you actually have to have the humility to look at your day job, look at your kids, look at your wife, look at your whole situation, and realize that the commitment to studying a new language is going to change everything. And either your wife is in it with you or she is not. And if you're not doing this together, I got bad news for you. It isn't just one thing that you're going to be doing apart. This really is the end of the marriage. Really. There are even going to the gym. If you have a couple and one person spends 3 hours a day on exercise and the other spends 0, do you think it's going to last? If you both go to the gym together, if it's a positive part of your lives together, that's different. That's a whole nother story, right? These are things you got to think through with a certain kind of humility, a certain kind of detachment, okay? And then on the other hand, internalizing and memorizing a text. And I do understand the power of hearing the words while you're reading. It's both. It's an oral experience. It's a visual experience. I totally get it, bro. But that is actually a religious experience, and it's a brainwashing experience. And in your target language, there may be nothing you want to learn, nothing you're willing to learn in that way, on that level, to that extent. Ancient Latin. I like a lot of authors in Ancient Latin. I'm a fan of quite a few authors in Ancient Latin. Is it really good for me to commit those works to memory in Ancient Latin? Is it a positive thing for me to take this step backward into a kind of medieval model of memorization of a sacred text? I mean, bro, just like steroids, okay? We gotta be honest about the advantages and the disadvantages both.